Welcome to Sips and Solutions, Laugh and Learn, all the things here today with Chief Owl, Katie Eades, that's me, and my favorite Master Akashic Records Practitioner, Leilani Lucero. Welcome back.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
So happy you're here. We are going to be talking about SOULutions today. If you haven't tuned in to our original podcast on Akashic Records with Leilani Lucero, season 5, episode 1, I highly recommend you tune in. If you have not listened to our bonus episode, the 5-1 synchronicity, and you definitely want to tune in. If you know about human design and Akashic Records or nothing about them, this is the episode for you. We're going to talk about both of them. We're going to talk about how the synergy of them two coming together is magical. And also, more importantly, science says magic happens. So we're going to talk a lot about some science today. Yes, that's right. Magic is real. All it takes to have a little bit of magic is some structure. Just ask the Wright brothers. Nobody doubts that we can fly or talk on a cell phone. Can you see the waves of the cell phone floating out into the universe and pinging back? No, but you know the cell phone works. So I'll talk a little bit about science today, just a smidge. If you want to hear more of it, head over to the Outstanding Women Leaders podcast. Listen to my HeartMath Experience episode where I talk a lot about the science behind what we're going to be speaking about today. But enough about me and enough about human design for a moment. Leilani, for people who don't know what Akashic Records are, tell us a little bit about them.
Ooh, it's so juicy. Akashic Records, essentially, it's this energetic repository that holds your soul's truth. So when we're talking about sips and solutions, like this is where we go. We go into your soul, we go into your purpose, we go into everything that you are, everything that you're made of, your consciousness. It holds your not just your truth, your emotions, your memories, your past, your potential possibilities. When we talk about magic, right? Potential possibilities, actual outcomes, everything is housed energetically within your records. And so when I work with people, this essentially allows them to go deeper into their own current life experience, their own current energy, to be able to expand and allow for more of that magic that we speak of.
We are here to master energy. Man has been doing that. Woman, man, humans have been mastering fire. We've been mastering electricity. We've been looking at how do we manipulate energy with forgetting that we are energy before we are biology. The minute that the cell and the sperm meet, there is a spark before there is that first cell that will go on to divide and become a fetus and then a baby and a child and an adult. So we are energy, and we know that we can feel that energy. We can actually measure 3 to 4 feet around us. Scientifically, we cannot measure anything beyond 4 feet because it doesn't exist yet. I always invite people, instead of waiting for science to catch up, be your own scientist. And that's what this invitation really is all about today. I have been resistant to Akashic Records. And resistance means, well, it will persist. That's how resistance works. And then, if you don't know about that with energy, if you're resisting it, it's going to build up. And by the fates that empowers that be, I followed Leilani on Instagram because I thought I went to CTI with her in 2020. And you can hear all about that on the episode. Turns out she went there too, but just 5 years before me. And as a result, hosted on a podcast, did an energetic exchange between human design, gene keys, which is what I bring to the table, and the record. And after she came to me first. And I never told you this until now, but after I experienced the Akashic record with her, I thought, man, I really just brought her some pennies, and she showed up with $100 bills, y'all. Like, I really felt like, man, I wasn't really useful. What did I even have to bring to the table? This is just another level. And that has been my experience in the follow-up with you. But instead of pushing aside what I've done, Leilani is great about saying, hey, there's actually some really good useful stuff here too. And At a DNA level, we know from epigenetics that we can turn genes on and off. People usually talk about that with food or with environment. Energy is an environment. Energetically, you are feeding yourself. More importantly, energetically, you're feeding the field. And so everything around us is the field. And your energy, we can measure it. So we know that you're feeding it. And we also know that different emotions have a different frequency. And this essentially is what you're tapping into and beyond. And that's the part where we just wait for science to catch up for Katie to be able to fully explain it. In the Gene Keys work that I've done, and my second Akashic record, I thought, I'm just going to bring a Gene Key and see what happens. And I brought you a pretty deep one. I brought you the sexual wound, which is the attractor field in Gene Keys. And that also means it's what I'm feeding the field energetically. No surprise to me. It's leadership. That's the gift that shows up in my Gene Keys. And that experience, you can say really random things like, I'm healing the top of your left thigh. And I could walk away and be like, well, that's fun. But because I picked up an I Ching book and thought, let me see, what is the 31 written by Wilhelm in the 1800s? What did he say about the 31? Randomly pick up the book. And the synchronicity of it literally says the top of the left thigh to continue would be humiliating. And ever since then, I have not continued. We ripped up some lovely contracts with people. I channeled some music. If you know me and you've worked with me, you know I love music. And the song that showed up randomly, again, I'm going to use the word random until we start to believe in synchronicity over here, is someone I used to know. And that really about summed up how I felt. And so the healing in this experience was pretty profound. My hips opened up, life has opened up, and we have gotten to meet in person. And I think really seeing how the science, the spirituality, and this great channeling that Richard Rudd has brought through Gene Keys. We have 64 strands of DNA. We have what I can only imagine is a man who said junk DNA makes up about 95% of the DNA. And what we're starting to realize is that we can unlock things, we can open up, that we're really tapping in, whether you want to call that a past life regression, you want to call it the Akashic ocean of information. The HeartMath Institute has done some really nice studies in the quantum field and recognizing that we are not only feeding the field, but we can shift the field. But when we're not aware of it, we usually just show up and we're impacted by the field, which is why we feel that elephant in the room. So I've talked a lot. Leilani's listened lovely. This has been my experience through Akashic, though, is this really embodiment is a buzzword. Somatic healing is another one. There's faith and then there's knowing. And what I really found was unlocked for me was just a deep DNA cellular knowing. And it's sort of that point of no return. And HeartMath and the tools I use there is about the nervous system having to know. When the nervous system knows, it will start to scan for something different. And I think that's the only way I can really truly describe what has happened for me since being able to bring the Gene Keys of my human design to you, is feeling that permanent shift of, oh yeah, this is where we're headed. And the nervous system, because the limbic system is specifically scanning for the familiar, you've created a new familiar for me. And I don't have to look for the old.
It's so beautiful that you speak to this. What we intrinsically have is our strands, our cellular DNA. And through the Akashic records, what happens as we are activated into a new energetic potentiality, or we heal through an energetic wound or imprint, we move through that which is within us and shift and alter what is being held within. And it's so interesting, the synergy, right? Because you're such an expert in what you do, and I might not and do not have the comprehension, right, for it all, but it's so aligned. It's so aligned, and you speak to this and I'm like, wow, this is how you're also being impacted in parallel with what is available for you in the Akasha, right? Within the records. And to heal and move through it, because it is energy, it is all moving through you, and that's what am able to tap in. So there's something so incredibly majestic about it. And I really respected and loved science, but I was never, I could, again, my brain can only take in so much, right? But it's the parallels and how much science based everything we do is. These are just more portals that we're opening up within us. And it's really incredible.
Yeah, science is a portal. I like that phrasing that you've used. It's not a religion.
Yeah.
That's why we don't have to wait for the Pope of science to shift and change the edicts and the powers that be. We know that quantum physics is just essentially told us we live in a paradox. and and for me, science and spirituality, sacred geometry is science. It's mathematics. Pythagoras did not just have a squared plus b squared equaling c squared. In fact, he had this entire sacred geometry that created these letters that we know as our language that we use today. And there's vibrational energy behind all of that.
And in nature, especially, nature is geometry.
Yeah.
Music is geometry, right? It's all harmony, and it's so incredible. It's
Yeah,
so
way better than that pegboard and string that I was using for geometry when I was in school. Now I understand why I wasn't interested. I was just like, geometry, like, hello, the nature was in geometry, guys. The joke was there. We missed it. The Fibonacci sequence, we see it everywhere.
right.
What we also know about nature is that it's naturally self-organizing. And we have been in an era for hundreds of years now where we do not like chaos. It's kind of what the Catholic Church was trying to clean up is chaos, I think, or create it. I can't decide. Both are true, though, because when we try to fight nature and we try to clean up chaos with the mind, we create more of the same. If you were to take a couple toddlers and put them in a room together and you heard them cry and scream and you just left them alone, you would come back to see a fort, a castle, Legos that they've built. You would see something amazing. I know, because I was a product of like kids go outside, fight with each other, figure it out. And we ran the neighborhood. It was great. But that is how nature is designed. If you're meant to have an experience, you're going to have it. You don't have to force it. You don't have to reach for it. What's hard is that we don't know how to trust that, because from the moment that you could talk, we were very excited. And then it was, well, not now. Well, we need you to use this language and not that language. We've been organized into schools and organized into systems, and we've forgotten how to self-organize naturally. Depression naps. You mean your body wanting to go to some other spiritual planes and like figure out life and heal? And we know the body heals when it sleeps. Sometimes we put people into comas to get healthier. Your body is always talking to you. If you've tuned into my Live, Laugh, Shut the F Up and Listen podcast, you know we talk a lot about that. Human design is about here's how your body's energy flows. Are you an emotional energy background where if you are, every day you're going to feel different? You don't have to have a label for that. You just need to know how to surf your wave. If you're like Leilani and myself, you're really special. We are wide open in the emotional intelligence center. We're not distracted by the motor that the emotional intelligence center is. We're not distracted also by the awareness that it is. We can drown in this area. And what you've done is been able to tap into the Akashic in that area, I imagine, is we are free from being of the emotions We're free from filtering our life actually through the emotions. And that allows us to heal and work in the emotions. Your mess is your message is a phrase they use in human design. I think that your amazingness can also be a message. And that's the great paradox, is that wisdom is gained through experiences. Leilani and I have both had many of those. And we're both channeling for you in a different way. I am not a systematic, let me take you through human design. Here's what you need to know about how it works. I am listening to what you want to get out of it, just like Leilani does when you show up to her session. And then I'm just diving in with a lot of science and knowledge, and I'm giving you, I don't know, Leilani, you've experienced a little bit of it. What would you describe is how that shows up?
I don't know. It's interesting. I do want to, what is being highlighted right now, and it feels like a very important thing to kind of notate, for those that aren't aware. I'm channeling, I'm an open channel, so that comes through quite often. But you mentioned something about freedom, and these modalities offer a snippet of freedom in the moment, right? In that moment of feeling resonance through these avenues of accessibility, we get to experience freedom in that moment. And it is tied and connected to the wisdom and the intuition and the insight and all that's happening. But like, there is so much available that we sometimes miss in that. And to be open, because we both are very, very open. Like we have met each other in person, and I've told Katie, like, I've worked with so many people. Her beingness is so open that she experiences serendipities quite frequently. She experiences those synchronicities, like the melodies just in play and harmony. And in that, there's peace. So there's also freedom, right? So there is just something about being open to the experience. And when you ask me about that, it's like, oh, that openness allows for so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And I've had what you just gave me is probably the full short answer to my question, which is I give you language for your lived experience, just like you just gave me language for that experience I was walking through. And that language is something you can take to Leilani and have a session on. The shadow has healing in it. There's gold in your shadows. I love the way that Richard Rudd talks about this metaphor of evil and good. And evil is just what has not been accepted. And when we love and light, you can only find light in the darkness is another great way to look at that. The seed does not leave the fruit when it bears from the tree. It is still intact. It is still there. And so being able to bring that to you and to experience healing in a level that's beyond words. I think words can be freedom, as you mentioned, though, in the moment.
They're magic spells as well.
Yes.
So what you say within, what you say without is actually what you are making happen, making something come true. And you speak about, you said something about acceptance. There's an acceptance. And I don't know if you said this or Spirit was like, oh, we're kind of going to wrap it up in a bow for you. But I feel that with you oftentimes, because I may not be able, while I know who I am, while I know my shadows and my light, and I'm very well aware because my healing journey has been very expansive and deep, has width and breadth and, like a lot of depth. There has been, and what you have brought to me, because I know what I am and what it is, right? I don't quite know the intricacies. I may not be able to name it. And so in what you have provided for me has allowed me to be like, oh, yeah, I am that. And there's a level of acceptance, which also then brings a level of peace, right? Which also means I'm a little bit more compassionate to self. I'm a little bit more loving to who I am. If I can accept more of myself, there's more an acceptance for other people to be. And you said something so beautiful and poignant earlier around music, and fill in the blanks for me, Katie, but there was something around, like, you said it so beautifully. I'm like, wow, around how it's slipping me, about music bringing forth. Do you remember what that was? It was so incredible. And now it's slipping me because I'm channeling and it's hard for me to like get out of that and come back in. But yeah, there was something so amazing around accepting others where they are,
Mm.
accepting ourselves where we are, because that's kind of what we all strive for. Yeah, if we can accept, then we create space. It's like foundational work, right? It's like, oh, okay, acceptance, cool. If we can accept that we need a breath, maybe we'll breathe deeper, maybe we'll breathe more, right? And then go from there. So it's choice and acceptance is a bit intertwined, but that's going a little bit
Mm.
off topic. But there was something so poignant and beautiful you said, and I'm sure you've said it, in one of your podcasts before.
I love what you talk about with acceptance, because for me, the Akashic was acceptance of that you just it was more than acceptance, actually. It was an embrace.
I feel that.
And, acceptance to me is the way that Carrie Newcomer puts it in her song is the closing of a cycle. That's the point of arrival.
Mm.
Once you've accepted, you have had arrived, and there is a lot of freedom there. And beyond that freedom is the embrace. And to be able to step into the Akashic realm and to embrace what there's an inner knowing about or an inner feeling about, to be able to embrace the darkness, which is the evil that we haven't fully accepted. Once you've embraced, it can't impact you anymore. There can be some, acceptance is like, ooh, I love this. Acceptance is like the warm blanket. Perhaps the embrace is an actual human versus the blanket, where you really do embrace. For me, looking back at parts of my life and just saying, God, I love who you were, Katie. If you had been any other version of Katie at that moment in time, I always struggle with this whole regret piece, because I just know that I can't, because who I was in that moment was so perfect to be in this moment. That's the
That's
synchronicities that you talk about.
That's amazing. And it's divine perfection. We are contracted. We ourselves contract our lives, our souls, our incarnations. We've contracted prior to coming into this incarnation how we would be for and to each other. Right. And yeah, there's the embrace. To me, you put it so eloquently, this visual of being embraced, because the embrace, you feel the love, you feel the compassion, you feel it. There's so much depth there. Yeah, and it really truly does feel like that when you're in the records, because you feel love and support, and you feel something powerful that is available for you. It's accessible to you. It's always been yours. It's always a resource to help you. Um, and I get the hesitation. I get the hesitation because it's been a buzzword in and around some spiritual circles and around the like holistic new age kind of feel in the last, like many years, like 4 or 5 years or whatever it is, but that's still quite not a lot, right? And so it's like, what is this all about? There's nothing like it. There's
Yeah.
nothing like it to me, truly.
Yeah. It's something that you experience, and it is a once in a lifetime. I've got a lottery ticket. This is it. And today we're going to offer that lottery ticket. If you've never experienced Leilani Lucero specifically in a 1-hour Akashic record reading, there's a link in this podcast that you can experience her at a discount. And if you've never experienced a human design and gene keys reading with me, what I would encourage you to do is have the heady knowledge stuff with me first, if you want to do both, and then go to Leilani with some of these questions that you might have or things that came up. If you're one of those people that have already experienced Leilani and you're listening, come to me and bring some of those things. Wait, she knows nothing about my craft. I know nothing about her craft. That's what I love about two craftswomen coming together to make something so synergistic, is we have different layers of energies and we work with them in different ways. And you're not going to hear us say something that contradicts. We haven't found it with each other yet. So, and that's how you know things are really divinely sourced or inspired. It's happening because it's one source. We're all pulling from the collective. Why do we pull things that are wrong for us in the collective? Well, the collective has both energies. I love the science of the HeartMath to show that the more people in the room, the dumber the room gets. And they, of course, don't use the word dumber. It's the collective intelligence level drops. It's very hard to maintain a high level frequency in a room full of a lot of people. And for it to truly be authentic. Yeah. So just know when you're in those a la Tony Robbins type environments, if you've ever been in one of those, there is a falseness that's almost being created because the collective intelligence is not fully there.
That's so interesting. We've never talked about that, but I would love to have a separate conversation on that. I have thoughts.
Yeah, I have several of those thoughts as well. And that's why we're so careful about how we curate and hold space for people. And
intentional is the word.
I like the word. Yes, intentional. I have to be careful. I don't knock things over. But intention is there. And if you're hearing this and you're like, Katie, I know you, I know her, like I want all this stuff. There's also more coming for you to be able to step into space with us. And what I love about working with leaders, and if you don't consider yourself a leader, you're here on a mission, you have a story, is I love disrupting whatever that status quo is that's been holding you back. My energy in human design specifically is to leave sparks wherever I go and to disrupt and shift whatever needs to change for the better. And when people ask me, who's coaching you, coach? Because I do get asked that. I always laugh. I'm like, well, if I went to nutrition school, I'd write my own nutrition plan. So I can coach myself pretty well. I can parent myself okay through human design. But when I want to go to heal, when I want to go to feel more certainty, to experience the love and trust of perhaps another realm that we're not currently in the moment, I call Leilani. And that's why we're here today. I have only ever, if you've listened to the podcast, I'm in season 5. I've only ever promoted 2 people. I'm promoting Leilani right now, like from a place of me. Another episode that just dropped was Kelsey Eades. She's got a retreat coming up in Mexico that she is in human design, the embodiment of self-love. If you want to go love yourself, hang out with her. So thank you so much for joining me today, Leilani, to promote what you're doing. Mm-hmm. If you're tuning in, I will have all the links if you want to soak up 3 episodes of Leilani. You can soak up her energy for free on the Owl podcast. You can soak her up for some money if you'd like to experience the Akashic. It is an experience. I want you to think about it as you're just not going to be the same person that you were when you entered. At least I certainly wasn't. So I thank you for that. Anything you'd like to close us out with?
Oh, just thank you, Katie. It's so nice to be in your world in this way. Truly, it feels like a heart-to-heart honor. So thank you.
Yeah. And if you haven't liked the podcast, follow the podcast, dropped us a comment at all, feel free to do that. Outstanding Women Leaders, we'd love to hear from you. owlprofessionalcoaching.com to find out all the other great things that are coming up. In the meantime, do something fun, have a hoot, and tell me about it.